The cameras flashed like lightning across the press conference stage. Reporters packed the room wall to wall, microphones stacked on the table where the undefeated UFC champion sat, chewing gum and grinning like he already knew he owned the world. His gold belt gleamed in front of him, reflecting every flashbulb as if it were feeding on the attention. He leaned back in his chair, sunglasses on indoors, oozing the kind of confidence that borders on contempt. "Another day, another payday," he said, laughing with his entourage. "Who's left to beat me?" A journalist raised his hand. "You've been compared to legends, Anderson Silva, Bruce Lee, even Steven Seagal. Any thoughts on that?" The room quieted for half a second. The champ smirked, lowered his glasses, and shot back. "Steven Seagal? Man, please. That dude's an actor. I'd knock him out in one punch. Heck, I'd knock him out in his rocking chair. Grandpa better stay retired." Gasps and nervous laughter rippled through the press row. A few reporters exchanged looks. They knew that quote would explode online within minutes, but the fighter wasn't finished. He leaned closer to the mic, voice dripping arrogance. "Let's be real. Seagal had his time when movies were still on VHS. I'm the future of martial arts. If he's got a problem, he knows where the octagon is." His manager tried to change the subject, but the damage, or the marketing gold, was already done. Every journalist in the room typed furiously, already framing headlines like "UFC champion calls out Hollywood legend." Cameras kept rolling as the champ stood up, adjusted his designer jacket and flashed a cocky grin. "Tell Grandpa I said hi." He tossed over his shoulder before walking off stage. Outside, reporters scrambled to upload clips. Within minutes, social media caught fire. Hashtags like Seagal Challenge and Grandpa Fight trended worldwide. Some fans laughed, others called it pure disrespect. Comment sections exploded with debate. Was this youthful confidence, or the height of arrogance? No one knew it yet, but that careless insult was about to set off a storm that would shake both the fight world and Hollywood itself. What happened next made millions of people pause their feeds. The insult spread faster than wildfire. Within minutes of the press conference ending, the clip was everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, thousands of posts all showing the same moment. The champion leaning into the microphone with that smug grin, saying, "I'll knock you out, Grandpa." It was the perfect storm for virality. Short, disrespectful, and directed at a global name. Steven Seagal, a man known not just for his martial arts films, but also for his real-life black belts and decades of discipline. Sports channels replayed it on loop. Talk show hosts joked about it that same evening, but the tone wasn't admiration, it was disbelief. Fans flooded the comments. "Bro really called out Steven Seagal? This guy just committed career suicide. He's got no respect for the OGs." Yet others defended him. "He's just hyping fights. That's what champs do. Confidence isn't arrogance, he's earned it." As the world debated, the UFC champion enjoyed the chaos. He posted a selfie on Instagram later that night, shirtless, grinning, flexing his title belt, with the caption, "Too fast, too strong. No mercy, not even for grandpas." He ended it with the hashtag #Seagal Challenge and a smirking emoji. The post exploded past 1 million likes in hours. Every sports influencer, fight channel, and meme page jumped on it. YouTubers made breakdown videos titled "The Day a UFC Fighter Disrespected a Legend." Even news outlets picked it up. ESPN ran a headline, "UFC Champion Calls Out Steven Seagal in Shocking Rant." The clip was now officially global. Meanwhile, deep in Arizona, Steven Seagal was teaching at a quiet dojo, far away from the noise. He wasn't scrolling through his phone or posting online. He was barefoot on the mat, demonstrating Aikido technique to a handful of students who had no idea the internet had just erupted in his name. One of them finally whispered, "Sensei, you're trending." Seagal paused mid-lesson, brow slightly furrowed. "Trending?" The student handed him a phone showing the viral clip. The old master watched silently, the champion's words echoing. "I'll knock you out, Grandpa." For a few seconds, Seagal said nothing. Then he smiled faintly, not out of anger but amusement. "People mistake noise for strength," he said quietly. "But noise always fades." That same evening, Seagal's publicist posted a short statement to social media. "Mr. Seagal has great respect for all martial artists. True strength is shown through discipline, not insults. No threats, no challenges, just calm." But that calmness only made the story blow up more. Comment sections filled with praise. Classic Seagal, classy, composed. That's how a real martial artist responds. The champ just got schooled without a single punch. Still, the UFC champion refused to back down. The next day he went live on Instagram, smirking at the camera as thousands of fans tuned in. "Y'all mad about a joke? Relax," he said, sipping an energy drink. "But if Grandpa wants to step up, I'll make it happen. Octagon's open." He laughed, shadowboxed a few quick punches, and winked at the camera. The comment section exploded. Some cheered him on. Others begged him to stop embarrassing himself. Then came the inevitable moment. A reporter asked Seagal during a public appearance if he'd consider responding physically. Seagal smiled again and said softly, "A lion doesn't need to prove itself to a cub." That single line became an instant quote of the week. Memes, posters, motivational edits. The internet couldn't get enough. By now the feud wasn't just about fighting. It had become a symbol. Old school discipline versus modern arrogance, respect versus ego. Podcasts debated it. Fighters weighed in. Joe Rogan discussed it on his show. Everyone had an opinion. Even Dana White, the UFC president, chimed in. "Seagal's a legend. I think the champ's just hyping himself up, but yeah, that line was over the top." Behind the scenes, promoters saw opportunity. What if, somehow, they could get Seagal and the champ in the same room? Not for a fight, but maybe a face-to-face conversation. The idea started circulating online, fans begging for it. "We need Seagal versus the champ live." Set up a charity event. One encounter. One handshake. One lesson. The internet wanted a showdown, even if it was just verbal. But amid the chaos, something interesting happened. The more arrogant the champion acted, the more Seagal's quiet dignity attracted admiration. Clips of Seagal's past interviews resurfaced, him talking about peace, inner strength, humility. And fans began comparing the two side by side, one man talking, the other man teaching. Slowly, public opinion started to shift. The same people who had laughed at first were now rooting for the old master. The champion noticed the changing tide, and it bothered him. His likes were still high, but the comment tone had changed. Instead of "you're the GOAT," he was seeing more, "You went too far, bro. Show some respect." Seagal's a real martial artist. "You're just a showman." He slammed his phone shut, shaking his head. "Whatever," he muttered. "They'll forget next week." But they didn't. Instead, the story grew, and the demand for a meeting became too loud to ignore. If you are watching this live right now, tell me in the comments where you're from. Which country or city are you watching this story from? And do you think this champ was just hyping up the fight? Or did he cross the line? Within days, the world got what it wanted. The young champion and Steven Seagal face to face. But no one was ready for what actually happened in that room. 3 days later, the internet had turned into a circus. Sports channels, gossip blogs, and martial arts forums were all buzzing with one question. Will Steven Seagal respond in person? The UFC champion couldn't scroll anywhere without seeing his own face. But this time, the comments weren't as friendly. Fans had begun turning on him, calling him disrespectful, immature, and a clown who forgot his roots. Yet instead of calming down, the champ doubled down. He posted another video, pacing in his luxury gym, gloves on his hands. "Look," he said, "I don't care how old he is. I respect the movies, but this is real life. If Seagal wants to prove he's still got it, I'm right here. Step into my world." He pointed to the octagon behind him and smirked. Let's see if Grandpa can even make it up these steps. The arrogance was turning into a spectacle. Promoters started pitching the idea of a televised meeting. Not a fight, but a martial arts dialogue between generations. It was part PR stunt, part peace offering, and part ego trap. To everyone's shock, Seagal agreed, but only under one condition. There will be no violence, only understanding. That line alone broke the internet again. When the day finally arrived, the event was streamed live from a private training facility in Los Angeles. Hundreds of cameras, dozens of journalists, and millions of viewers were tuned in. On one side of the mat stood the champion, tall, young, radiating confidence. On the other stood Seagal, calm, quiet, wearing his traditional Aikido robe, hands folded. The contrast couldn't have been sharper. Reporters whispered as the two approached each other. The champ gave a forced smile, holding out his hand, but his tone dripped sarcasm. "Good to finally meet you, legend." Seagal nodded slightly, his expression unreadable. "The pleasure is mine, young man." The moderator began. "Gentlemen, today is not about conflict. It's about respect and perspective in martial arts." But from the moment they sat down, the tension was thick. The champion leaned back, arms crossed. "Respect goes both ways," he said. "I grew up watching your movies, but this is 2025. Different generation, different level." Seagal simply replied, "True martial arts never changes with time. Only the ego does." A few people in the room gasped quietly. The champ forced a laugh. "Ego? No, I'm just confident." Seagal smiled faintly. "Confidence is silent. Ego is loud," the crowd murmured again. Even the moderator struggled to keep things neutral. "Who do you think handled that moment better? The calm master or the cocky champion? Comment your answer and tell me which country you're watching this from. I'll pin the most interesting one." As the discussion went on, Seagal spoke about honor, self-control, and humility. The champion rolled his eyes, interrupting, "Yeah, but you can't meditate your way through a right hook." Seagal turned to him, his tone still calm but sharper now. "You believe fighting makes you powerful, but fighting without purpose only makes you weaker." For the first time, the champ didn't have a comeback. Something about the way Seagal looked at him, steady, piercing, almost fatherly, made him shift in his seat. The moderator tried to lighten the mood. "Maybe we can see a demonstration? Purely educational?" The audience perked up. Cameras zoomed in. The champ smirked. "Sure, let's show them how it's done." He stood, cracking his knuckles. Seagal rose slowly, bowing first. The champ didn't bow back. He raised his fists, playfully bouncing on his feet. "Go easy on me, old man," he joked. Seagal said nothing. They stepped onto the mat. The champion made a light feint. Not serious, just for show. In a blur of motion, Seagal sidestepped, turned his wrist and redirected the young fighter's momentum so smoothly that the champion stumbled forward and nearly fell. It wasn't violent. It wasn't even aggressive. It was effortless. The kind of control that comes from decades of mastery. The crowd gasped. Cameras clicked. The champ froze for a second, stunned. Then Seagal helped him up, bowing again. "That," Seagal said softly, "is the difference between anger and control." For once, the champion had no words. He just nodded slightly, brushing off his arm, trying to mask the embarrassment. The moderator smiled awkwardly. "Well, that was certainly enlightening." Laughter broke out in the crowd, not mocking, just amazed. Seagal bowed once more to the audience. "Martial arts," he said, "is not about proving who's stronger. It's about becoming strong enough not to need to prove anything." As they left the stage, the internet was already going wild. Clips of Seagal's effortless counter flooded social media within minutes. The hashtags changed overnight. "Respect the master" and "or lesson in humility" started trending. For the first time, the champion's followers began defending Seagal instead. Even fans who loved the fighter had to admit, that move was legendary. The young champion didn't speak to the press after the event. He just walked silently to his car, camera lights flashing, jaw tight, pride bruised. But deep down he knew. The grandpa he mocked had just taught him a lesson no coach ever could. The next morning, the world couldn't stop talking. And what Steven Seagal did next turned this viral feud into a life-changing lesson for millions. The morning after the live event felt like a different world. Every social media feed, every news outlet, every sports blog was flooded with clips of one unforgettable moment. Steven Seagal, calm and composed, effortlessly disarming the UFC champion without breaking a sweat. The internet had decided Seagal won without throwing a punch. The video of the 1-second takedown racked up over 100 million views overnight. Slow-motion replays circulated across every platform, with commentators narrating Seagal's fluid motion like it was a work of art. "Look at that precision. That's mastery," said one martial arts analyst. He didn't fight the energy. He redirected it. The old lion still rules the jungle. Meanwhile, the champion was silent. No posts, no stories, no live streams. For a man who built his brand on bravado and noise, his silence spoke louder than any apology. At a gym in Las Vegas, his team sat in awkward silence as he shadowboxed alone, sweat dripping, frustration in every movement. Every punch he threw replayed Seagal's calm face in his mind. The way the master had moved, Effortless, unshaken, it burned deeper than any physical defeat. His coach tried to speak gently. "Hey, it wasn't a fight, champ." "Don't take it too hard," he stopped mid-combo. "He embarrassed me in front of the whole world," he snapped. His coach sighed. "No, you embarrassed yourself. He just showed everyone what respect looks like." The words hit harder than a punch. Back online, Seagal's followers had skyrocketed. Old interviews, movie clips, and martial arts seminars were trending again. People rediscovered his teachings about inner peace, humility, and control. A fan-made montage titled "The Wisdom of Seagal" went viral on YouTube, showing clips of him teaching Aikido, paired with captions like, "Control yourself before you control others. Real power is quiet. Respect earns more than fame ever could." Even celebrities joined the trend. Dwayne Johnson posted on X, Twitter, "Respect to Steven Seagal. Legends stay legends." And actor Michael Jai White commented, "That wasn't about fighting. That was about levels." Meanwhile, the champion couldn't avoid the backlash. Brands started calling his agent, reconsidering sponsorships. One by one, endorsement deals went on hold. Even the UFC's PR team urged him to apologize, publicly. But he refused. "I'm not saying sorry for speaking my mind," he muttered in a podcast interview later that week. But his eyes told a different story. The fire was dimmer now, the tone defensive. The interviewer pressed, "Do you regret challenging Steven Seagal?" He smirked weakly. "Regret? Nah, I just didn't expect him to be that quick." They both laughed awkwardly, but the comment section didn't. Still no humility. He learned nothing. Seagal handled this like a master. This kid's still talking. That same week, Seagal made a surprise appearance on a late-night talk show. The host grinned, trying to stir the pot. "So, Steven, how did it feel to humble a world champion?" Seagal chuckled softly. "I didn't humble him. Life did." The audience erupted in applause. He continued, voice calm and deep. "When you disrespect others, you disrespect yourself first. True martial artists don't fight to win. They fight to understand. And if you're lucky, sometimes your opponent teaches you something too." It was a masterclass in grace. Even people who had mocked Seagal a week ago were now calling him the embodiment of calm strength. At home, the champion sat watching the clip in silence. For the first time, he wasn't angry. He was reflective. He saw how the crowd admired Seagal, not for his power, but for his peace. He remembered his childhood, watching Seagal's old films with his father, mimicking the moves in front of the TV. Back then, he didn't dream of fame or money, just the art itself. Somewhere along the way, he'd lost that. The next day, he did something no one expected. He went live. Not from his gym, not from a press event, but from his car, parked quietly outside. No music, no flashy editing, just him. "Hey everyone," he said, his tone lower, slower. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened. Steven Seagal didn't embarrass me. He reminded me what martial arts is supposed to be about. Respect, balance, and control. So yeah, I was wrong, and I'm sorry." The comment section exploded, but this time with support. Finally, some humility. This is what growth looks like. Respect earned back, champ. Even Seagal reposted the clip, adding only 3 words, "Lesson well learned." If you were in Seagal's place, would you forgive the champion, or would you teach him another lesson first? Comment your thoughts below, and tell me which country you're watching this story from. Over the next few weeks, the rivalry turned into something unexpected: mutual respect. The champion invited Seagal to train with him privately, away from cameras. Rumors surfaced that Seagal taught him a few Aikido techniques, and the two even shared tea afterward. No tension, no ego, just teacher and student. And just like that, the world shifted its tone again. The arrogant UFC champion headline became, "The fighter who learned respect." Seagal's legacy grew stronger. The champion's image was redeemed, and millions of viewers were reminded that true strength doesn't come from how hard you hit, but how calm you stay when the world is watching. But just when everyone thought the story was over, an unexpected twist brought them back into the spotlight again. This time, for something truly powerful. Weeks passed and the noise faded. The internet had moved on. New controversies, new scandals. But one story still lingered in people's minds: the transformation of the once arrogant UFC champion. For the first time in years, he wasn't chasing cameras or headlines. Instead, he was chasing growth. Every morning, he showed up at a quiet dojo in Los Angeles, the same one where Steven Seagal had first taught him a lesson in humility. No entourage. No film crew. Just the smell of tatami mats and the rhythmic sound of breathing as students bowed before training. Seagal didn't treat him like a celebrity. He treated him like a beginner. The champion learned how to fall correctly, how to control his breathing, how to redirect instead of attack. It wasn't glamorous, but it was grounding. At first, the champion's body resisted. Years of fighting in cages had trained him to strike, not flow. But day by day, he started understanding what Seagal had meant all along. Control yourself before you control others. One evening after class, the two sat quietly on the mat. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, painting golden lines across the floor. Seagal poured tea, his movements calm and precise. "You remind me of myself when I was younger," Seagal said. "Angry at the world?" the champion asked. Seagal smiled. "No, angry at myself." The words lingered like incense smoke. For the first time, the fighter truly listened. That night, he posted a photo. No captions, no bravado. Just a shot of him bowing to Seagal in the dojo. The internet took notice again. The photo spread fast, but this time the comments were filled with respect. From rivals to student and teacher, that's real growth. This is what martial arts is about. Powerful to see ego turn into humility. The UFC champion's fan base slowly returned, not because he was loud, but because he was real. A few weeks later, fate took an unexpected turn. The UFC organization announced a global charity event, Fists for Peace, to raise money for underprivileged youth learning martial arts. And the organizers had a bold idea. They wanted Seagal and the champion to headline it together. When Seagal heard, he nodded without hesitation. "If he's learned respect," he said, "then it will be my honor." The champion accepted immediately. But this time his motivation wasn't pride, it was purpose. The event was set in Tokyo, the birthplace of discipline, where martial arts began as a way of life, not entertainment. Thousands filled the arena. Millions tuned in online. The stage was simple, 2 mats, 2 men, and one message: respect. The crowd erupted when Seagal and the champion bowed to each other in the center of the stage. There was no hostility now, only mutual understanding. They began with light demonstrations, Seagal showing classic Aikido disarms, the champion explaining MMA defense techniques. Instead of competing, they complemented each other, blending old and new wisdom and power. Every motion told a story, the calm of tradition meeting the fire of modernity. Midway through, Seagal paused and spoke into the mic. "What you're seeing here isn't about who can win. It's about who can listen, because when generations listen to each other, we all grow stronger." The audience stood in silence, and not from boredom, but reverence. Even the toughest fighters in the crowd felt something shift inside. Then came the unexpected moment. A group of children from a local dojo joined them on stage. The champion knelt down, teaching one of the boys how to jab properly, reminding him, "Never fight to hurt, fight to protect." The crowd erupted in cheers. Cameras flashed. It was a full-circle moment. The fighter who once mocked age and wisdom was now passing both forward. If you believe true strength is more than just fighting, it's about respect, balance and self-control, type honor in the comments. And tell me, what lesson did you take from this story so far? After the event, Seagal and the champion shared one last bow. As they walked backstage, Seagal placed a hand on the young fighter's shoulder. "You've grown," he said, "not as a fighter, but as a man." The champion smiled, humbled. "Guess the old man had some moves left after all." Seagal chuckled. "The moves fade. The wisdom stays." A week later, the UFC champion launched a new foundation, the Path Project, providing free martial arts training to kids in struggling neighborhoods. The first person he invited to the opening ceremony? Steven Seagal. And when the cameras asked Seagal what message he had for young fighters watching, he simply said, "Respect the art, respect your elders, and most of all, respect yourself." The video went viral again, but not for drama this time, for inspiration. The feud that began with arrogance ended with honor, and for millions around the world, it wasn't just entertainment. It was a reminder that humility isn't weakness, It's the highest form of strength. But the story didn't end there. Months later, a shocking challenge tested both Seagal's wisdom and the champion's newfound humility in ways no one expected. Months passed since the charity event in Tokyo, and peace had finally become part of the champion's daily life. He was no longer chasing headlines or clout, just growth. He trained quietly, taught kids, meditated daily, and often quoted Seagal's words to his students. Discipline is the bridge between power and peace. But the internet never truly forgets. And soon a new storm was brewing. A rising UFC contender, young, undefeated, loud, began gaining attention for his trash talk. He was brash, flashy, and ruthless on the mic. Reporters began calling him the next version of the former arrogant champion. At first, the champion ignored it. He had been that man once, arrogant, loud, hungry for validation. He didn't want to feed the fire, but the new fighter didn't stop. During a press event, he called him out directly. "I'm not like that washed-up guy who bowed to an old movie star. I'm real. I'd knock both him and that fake sensei out in one night." The room gasped. The comment spread like wildfire. Déjà vu for everyone who remembered the grandpa insult months ago. Headlines appeared instantly. New UFC star mocks Seagal and the redeemed champion. History repeats itself? Reporters rushed to get a response, but the champion stayed silent. Until Seagal himself called. They met at Seagal's dojo again, the same calm space where the young man had once found humility. Seagal poured tea as always and looked at him quietly. "You've seen the news," the champion said. Seagal nodded. "I have. What should I do?" "The world's waiting for me to respond. They want me to prove something again." Seagal took a slow sip of tea before answering. "You can't prove wisdom by shouting. You can only show it through patience," the champion frowned. "So I should say nothing?" Seagal smiled faintly. Silence is sometimes the loudest answer. For a few days he followed that advice. He ignored the insults, refused interviews, and stayed focused on his training. But the new fighter escalated things. He posted edited clips mocking Seagal, calling him a fake martial artist and labeling the champion his little student puppet. He even imitated Seagal's calm gestures on camera, mocking his accent, laughing as his audience cheered. It was pure disrespect, not just to Seagal, but to everything the champion had learned. His students saw the videos. One of them, a little boy, asked innocently, "Sensei, why is that man being so mean to your teacher?" That question hit him harder than any punch ever had. He knew he had to respond, but not like before. If you were in the champion's place right now, would you stay silent like Seagal taught or defend your mentor publicly? Comment below with your choice, and tell me which country you're watching this story from. Days later, the champion finally broke his silence. But this time, his tone wasn't fiery. It was firm. He posted a short video sitting in front of the dojo wall, Seagal's calligraphy behind him. "When I was younger, I thought respect was weakness. Then life showed me that disrespect is what weak men hide behind. You want to fight? Fine, but understand this, you're not fighting a man. You're fighting your own ego." The clip went viral instantly. It wasn't trash talk, it was truth. Even fans who expected drama were silent for a moment, realizing how different the champion sounded now. The young contender responded, laughing online, calling it a monk speech. He doubled down, challenging the champion to a public sparring match to prove who's real. The internet exploded. Everyone wanted to see it. And surprisingly, the champion agreed, but on one condition: no trash talk, no cameras, just training. "If you're serious, show up." It was the calmest call-out in UFC history. 2 days later, the contender arrived at Seagal's dojo with a small crew, still smirking, still loud. But when he stepped inside, the energy changed. There was no spotlight, no stage, and just mats, discipline, and silence. Seagal stood at the side, watching. The champion bowed deeply before starting. The newcomer hesitated, unsure how to react, but bowed awkwardly. They sparred lightly at first, and smooth, technical. But then the young fighter got cocky, throwing wild, flashy strikes. The champion dodged calmly, using Aikido movements to redirect his momentum, just as Seagal had once done to him. In seconds, the contender was on the ground, gasping in shock. The room went still. Seagal nodded once, approvingly. The champion extended his hand, helping the young man up. No anger, no ego, just respect. "Now you understand," he said quietly. The new fighter's face flushed, not from pain, but shame. He bowed deeply. I'm sorry, man, the champion smiled. Don't be. We've all been there. The next day, the champion posted one final message. Humility is contagious. Pass it on. That line alone became a global quote. Fans shared it, fighters reposted it, even Seagal himself commented, "The student has become the master." The internet, the same one that once fueled arrogance, was now spreading wisdom. For millions watching, it wasn't just about fighting anymore. It was about what you fight for. But the world wasn't done with them yet. The final chapter would turn their story into a worldwide movement for respect, unity, and self-mastery. The video of the quiet dojo sparring leaked within 24 hours. Nobody knew who filmed it. Some said it was one of the students, others claimed Seagal's assistant uploaded it by accident. But within hours it spread like wildfire. The world watched as the once arrogant UFC champion handled a disrespectful challenger without anger, violence, or ego, just calm skill and dignity. The clip showed the new fighter being flipped to the mat and then helped up with respect. No one expected that. The comments section exploded. This is how real warriors act. He didn't just win the fight, he won his peace. Seagal's philosophy lives on through him. Even major outlets covered the story. CNN, ESPN, and martial arts forums around the world shared it as an example of true martial arts spirit. In Japan, Seagal's dojo became a symbol of humility and respect. In the Philippines, schools started showing the clip during physical education to teach character and self-control. And in America, UFC fans began using a new hashtag, Respect Movement. The champion didn't plan any of it. He wasn't chasing fame anymore. He just wanted to pass on what he learned. But the internet had other plans. Soon his inbox was flooded with messages. A teenager who had been bullied wrote, "Your video stopped me from fighting back with hate. I chose peace instead." A retired soldier said, "Your story reminded me that strength isn't in domination, it's in restraint." Even the young fighter who had mocked him reached out publicly, posting, "I came in with arrogance and left with respect. Thank you, champ, and thank you, Sensei Seagal." That single message broke the internet again. Two men who once symbolized pride and disrespect now stood together as brothers, proof that redemption is possible for anyone. Weeks later, the champion and Seagal appeared side by side at an international martial arts conference in Tokyo. Reporters from every corner of the world packed the hall. Cameras flashed as the champion took the mic, looked at Seagal and smiled. "Months ago, I thought being loud made me strong. Then I met this man, and he showed me that silence can shake the world louder than any punch. Real power isn't in hurting others. It's in helping them rise." The crowd erupted into applause. Seagal stood slowly, bowed slightly, and added, "A true fighter doesn't fight people. He fights his own darkness until only light remains." That line echoed through every news outlet, every social media feed, every martial arts page on the planet. If you believe that respect is stronger than arrogance, type respect in the comments and tell me what country you're watching this story from, because this message belongs to the whole world. Months later, the respect movement became a global initiative. Gyms, schools, and dojos started using it as a campaign to teach young athletes about humility, discipline, and empathy. The UFC champion created a foundation under the same name, supporting underprivileged kids in sports and education. And guess who became one of his ambassadors? The same young fighter who once called Seagal grandpa. Together, they visited schools, prisons, and training camps, spreading the message that real fighters don't break, they build. Even Hollywood got involved. A documentary titled From Arrogance to Honor. The Steven Seagal lesson began production, chronicling their journey from mockery to meaning. In one of the final scenes filmed, Seagal stood beside the champion on a quiet beach at sunset. The waves crashed gently as Seagal said, "You learned the most important lesson, to conquer yourself." The champion bowed, "And now it's my turn to teach others." The camera panned up to the horizon, the words appearing on screen, "Strength, honor, respect." Fade to black. If you believe no one is too proud to change and no one is too small to show respect, type honor in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful real-life stories that prove true strength begins within.